Yo, welcome. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another little replay analysis segment on the stream here. And today we have PRIMETIME, who is he's currently a Masters Zerg going up against Kaluz, who I believe is also a Masters Terran. We're going to be watching this game from our Zerg player's perspective here. This is the guy we're giving analysis to. We're going to see what he can do better, potentially. So far, we have a 17 hatch and a 18 pool, followed up by 18, 19 drones, and then a gas. 17, 18, 19 is the build of choice here, and I don't mind it. It's not bad. Against a Terran, you don't really need to rush a gas super fast if you don't want to, and this is a not a bad setup for macro, because it's going to mean that he never loses 16 drones on the middle line, because as soon as the gas is done, he'll have 19, which means exactly what just happened. As soon as that 19th drone popped out, 3 drones saturated the gas, and 16 stayed on the middle line. So he's maintaining optimal saturation the whole time. I like it so far. It's not bad at all. The cons of this would be if you're getting like Reaper all-in or proxy raxed, you'd have a little bit of a later speed to deal with something like that. But you can still deal with it. You know, your speed's like 10 seconds later. You can still deal with stuff like that. It's not like you're dead now or anything like that. But your economy is stronger. A little bit stronger, because you have a little bit more money to work with earlier, which means you might be able to do something like take a third faster and spin your larva the whole time. I'm gonna turn the music down just a tad because it's kind of loud. All right. You're under attack. Siege up. So we've seen a barracks over here floating. It's most likely to be a reactor. I don't feel like the Overlord fully... Like, you can assume it's going to be a reactor, but I would have loved it if the Overlord would have just scouted for just a split second longer. Yeah, I didn't get to see what it was. It's probably a reactor, though. But I do like that overall you did save it. And you're scouting a nice spot so you can see the front of his base. This is one thing I think could be improved on, though. I like that you're taking a third base. I also like that you have a natural. And, you're like, I was complimenting your build earlier. But here's where I think it might be going a little wrong. The Overlord we just talked about is one thing, because if you saw it was a reactor, it would tell you 2 possible builds. One is the potential like 16 Marines with 2 medevacs, like a 2-1-1 build, and another one would be the potential factory swap onto a barracks. If it was a tech lab, though, that rules out the fact that it's going to be a 2-1-1 or a reactor Hellion. So then you would be like, is he going to go fast tanks, or is he going to go for like a really quick stem or some shit like that with low marine count? So seeing if it's a reactor or a tech lab makes a big deal. 99% of the time it is going to be a reactor, though, and it is a reactor. But yeah, it's something important to keep in mind. Also, the gas here, you're still mining gas after your speed. It's a little questionable to do this because it's going to be... It really kind of depends on how you're going to spend it. I guess if you're going to go for Evo Chamber upgrades like really early, it's not a big deal. Except for the fact that if your opponent attacks you with some type of Hellion aggression, it's going to possibly make you lose some drones. Like there's like a hole in the build if you go for the fast Evos, if your opponent gets aggressive with Hellions. Because if you don't get this like perfect fucking links around, it could get a little dicey. And then if you go for a, if you were to go for like, if you're keeping the gas going for like, let's say a Roachhorn or a Bane Nest, you don't need to mine it this fast. You could actually take 2 drones off gas once you get speed until you're fully saturated on this base, and then at that point build a second gas and resaturate this gas, and you'll get Roaches and Banes roughly around the same time, but your economy will be ramped up faster. It'll just, like, you'll have way more money to work with. So we'll see what you do with it. But right now already, again, the reactor, with the possible Hellions with it, if you knew it was a reactor, is making this scary for you. I do like that you're following up the second scout as well, though. A new queen has emerged. And I would say roughly around this time, when you get to like 40 supply, hey, you're going double evo. This is risky. Because you don't know, like, I like it, but at the same time it's risky. It's good that you're doing this, because if this guy were to be going for like a straight bio build, this would be pretty strong. In terms of like having fast upgrades that are going to either be a little bit ahead of his, or at least match his upgrades. Probably would be ahead, because you're mining gas still from the very beginning. But if this guy were to do some type of like a Hellbat timing, this would get you killed. Because you're not going to have anything to deal with Hellbats if there's like a medevac with it as well.
Complete.
So if you were to go against, let's say, Hellions, like you just saw, there's Hellions there. What I think a better way to do, or what a better way to go about doing what you're doing, would be build a Roach Warren, get like 5 roaches out, and then go into double evo after you have like 5 roaches. I like that you're building a Roach Warren now, at least. This wall is interesting as well. This wall is like, it's like a pseudo mid wall. It's very weird. So he's got a Liberator, and he's got a bunch of Hellions. Yeah, this is, I don't know. I feel like if this guy macros it well, this could get really scary for you, because you have no units of production, and your current lings are all right here, and they're getting roasted. They're already getting roasted really well. This is a lot of AoE damage going on them at the moment. And this Liberator, if not dealt with, can do a stupid amount of damage. So we'll see how it goes, but your build is, the whole is literally what he's doing to you. If these were Hellbats especially, they would be fucking terrible for you.
Your warriors have engaged the enemy. They're attacking your base, you know.
Yeah, this is brutal. This is why you don't go double evo before Roach Warren if you go up against a reactive Hellion. Because there's a hole in your build, and he's abusing it right now by harassing you with Hellions. Now, granted, he went for only Hellions. He didn't actually go Hellbats. With just Hellion, you could actually have beaten this with a lot of Zergling. If you would have actually had your lings, like, let's say back here, and waited for him to commit into like the mineral line, you could surround him on the back of it or some shit, and then most likely kill the Hellions with like a decent link surround. But your lings got kited outwards and they all died, and then he ran into your base. But if they were Hellbats, it wouldn't matter what you do, your lings would never stop it. If it was like 6 Hellbats in a medevac or some shit, your lings would actually just die. And you'd have to run the drones away, and then it would waste a lot of time. So yeah, just make a Roach Warren, always, against someone who opens up with their reactor factory. And try to scout and make sure that's what it is. And now from there, this game is like already super far behind. You're never going to really be on par with the Terran now. You're playing a game from behind at this point. And the best thing you can do now would be to just, honestly, be greedy, be as greedy as possible, and just hope that he doesn't attack you. And if one way you could try to avoid him from attacking you is run your lings around his base a little bit. Like, try not to get them killed, but like maybe poke around like what you just did with that one ling. Poke it there a couple more times, here and there, just to make sure he stays home defensively. But you have to be greedy now, because if you just say, fuck it, I'm gonna make units off of like a worse drone count than the Terran. Look at that, he was like 20 workers ahead a second ago. I'm gonna back it up for a second. The Terran has 18 more SCVs than the Zerg up until a second ago. Now that one more finished. This is terrible for the Zerg. This is awful, because 14 drones died. So it really puts a hiccup in everything. And if you don't actually replace the drone count at all, like, you know, you don't just go crazy drones now, you will die to a mid-game Terran. So I like that you're being crazy with drones now. You have to do that. But if he were to push you right now, he could probably kill you, because it's 12 Marines, 3 Marauders, a Cyclone, 4 Hellions, and 2 Motomines, and 2 Medevacs versus 3 Roaches and 8 Lings. And I guess 6 Queens. His army could kill yours. Pretty hard. like if he was already in your base. But he doesn't know that. So like he doesn't know if you're gonna just make mass units now. And if you did make mass units and he sends the army like that, he could throw the army away. So he's playing it smart, playing the odds by being defensive because he's just expanding his lead at this point. Oh my god. He's doing a Widowmine drop now and also a Hellion drop at the same time. For a second I was like, it's just Hellion drop, this will be really easy to defend. But this is going to be really annoying for you. I like that your queen is going to probably take one of the Widowmine shots at least, unless he micros it. Because if you had a Widowmine hit this drone over here, one of these two drones, and a Widowmine hit like one of these drones, your whole middle line would basically die. Okay, the Widowmine's honestly got some bad fucking shots right there. He killed a total of 5 drones. That could have been way worse. But here comes the Hellions as well. Honestly, not that bad. Could have been way worse. You just lost like, what, like 12 drones to that entirely? Something like that? Like, you could have literally lost 2 mineral lines if you would have microed that a little bit better. Oh, this is bad. He's coming back again. He wants more blood. The best thing you can do in this situation, so again, you just made a lot of drones. You know, you're at a point now where your drone count is similar. If you didn't just lose some more drones here to the Widowmines earlier and the Hellions, you would have actually been tied, if not maybe a little bit ahead of the Terran and workers, because you're on 4 base and he's on 3 base. But the best thing you can do at this point right now would be to never attack him. Only defend on creep and try to do something cost efficient. Like if I was playing this game, if you do attack him, only attack him with like a Zergling counterattack. Do not attack him with your whole army is what I mean. If I were in your shoes in this game right now, what I would probably do is I would probably get, because you don't have Hydralisk at all, I would probably just get Infestation Pit, upgrade Pathogen Glands, and I would start going into Infestors while also going into a Hive and a Spire. And then I would just make Masslings. And I would never ever attack with my Infestors, but I might poke around with like, let's say 30 Lings, maybe you get lucky and kill some SCVs, but just defend with Fungal Growth at this point, because I feel like the game would kind of need to be like banked on maybe getting a good Fungal, because something like a good Fungal on a bunch of Marines could actually turn the tides. Like 2 Fungals kill 40 Marines, and now he just loses 40 supply to 2 Infestors shooting energy out, which would be huge. That could change everything. But if you just make straight up units that are going to smash into his army, like Zergling, Roach, Baneling, you're probably gonna die if he micros a little bit, because he's just gonna have too much to overwhelm you. Your army's gonna just like run in. Your army will run into his army, really thin and small, and it'll just like flop over and die, and then he'll just be like, okay, I'll just kill you now. It'll be really bad.
Your drones are under attack.
So something cost efficient has to be done right now, or you die. Unless he just sits there and waits for you to max. Attacking him is a mistake. I hope you don't attack right now.
Complete. So
This is like an impatient type of thing to do. This is bad. You're making a bad call. What's going to happen right now if you attack is he's probably going to thin out your army by kiting a little bit, and your army's, all of it's going to die. And then the supply will probably be like 150 for Terran to like 100 for Zerg. And then he'll just counterattack and kill you. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. I feel like it's going to be bad.
that mineral field's gone. Don't spend it all in one place.
It went a little bit better for you than I thought it would, because he didn't move a bunch of Marines there at first. But you're still down. It's instead of 150 to 100, it's like 135 to 110. But your economy is still worse than his. Oh shit! I take it back. You made drones during that, I think, right? You make drones right here? What the fuck? You like made drones and attacked at the same time.
Your drones are under attack. Siege up. Mutation complete. Our forces are under attack.
Okay, this is even more scary for you. I didn't even notice you did that at first. I think this is actually even more scary for you. You just made a round of drones, and now you're attacking. This is fucking nuts. This is actually the worst time to attack. It actually worked out decent for you because he lost a lot of units over here in a clump that we just saw. Well, I guess we can watch it again in a second. But droning, and then, like, first of all, you're behind. And then you drone up, which is what you should be doing to catch back up. But then you attack him right after you droned, so you have like, this army should thin out and die. This should never win against him realistically if he micros properly, because he has a major supply advantage over you, which is going to make it easier for him to thin this army out until it dies, while he like kites it and shit. But because you droned behind this, it weakened your push, which is going to guarantee that your push will die. You're not like reinforcing it as you go. And since you just droned as well, like, you're more vulnerable at the moment. I don't know, it's scary to push right now for you. Very scary. This is very heavy to like counterattack potential to kill you. Like, just imagine if all these guys right here, all these Marines and shit, didn't just stand here and die. And like, as soon as he saw this, he stemmed back to like the depots and like started kiting you backwards. Your whole army would have just got fucking destroyed. But he loses like 22 Marines because he doesn't pay attention.
That field's been mined out.
All right.
Hope you have an expansion.
I like that you're going Hive. It seems like you're gonna go for Ultras, which is not bad. But if you're ever going up against pure Ultra, and you do not, or we'll see what you do. We'll see what you do. You might actually just be going for 3-3. But right now, I like that you're making units again, because you definitely have to make units. You're lucky that he's not wanting to commit to creep.
A creep tumor's under attack.
Like, he gave you some time. But even then, you're catching back up now, slowly.
Don't spend it all in one place. That field's been mined out. Hope you have an expansion.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Hold the phone. Hold on. I think the way you are kind of microing this, it's scary for you, because you're committing all your Banes to one side and all your Lings to the other side. And I understand the logic behind it. What you want to do is you want to wrap your Lings, like, you want him to commit into the choke point here, and then you want to wrap all your Lings around and block him in place, while your Banes then have a nice position to just stuff into him and fucking blow him up. The only problem with this, if you don't put Lings on both sides, is if he catches wind of what you're doing and realizes what you're doing, if this guy were to then stim pack forward and run towards your Lings and like stutter, like, if your Lings are coming here, okay, and he stims forward, you have to then back up, because if you don't, if you keep stimming and running away from the Banes, your Banes will actually not catch him, and you'll lose all your Lings. I don't know. I think it's risky to set it up this way. As long as you don't actually commit your Lings before he's in the choke point, then it's fine. But if you commit your Lings out when he's out here, you're gonna lose.
A creep tumor's under attack.
Okay, you're pulling back. I like that. Good. I don't want you to fight this. This is bad. This is bad news bears, dude. If this guy micros well, I think you're gonna lose. So, like, in a situation like that, a lot of Zerg players, I think, They sometimes impatiently set up fights, and really the only thing you should ever be thinking about as Zerg that forces you to take a fight is if your hatchery's gonna die. If like his Marines and Marauders were like standing right here, and he had some over here as well, just shooting your drones in your hatchery, and they were gonna kill the hatchery if you just sat there and did nothing, then and it's like if I lose this base, I lose the game anyways. Because you know he's just gonna push and I'm behind and I have no money at that point. Then I understand if you take the fight. I would understand it because you have no other choice. But in a situation like this over here, there's nothing actually forcing you to take the fight, and you're currently switching into 2 upgrades that will majorly change the outcome of how the fight will go. Adrenal glands and centrifugal hooks. They both massively change how effective Ling and Bane are, which is your whole army basically. And you're also getting ready to switch into Ultralisk. The better thing you could have done would have been literally just to sit there, just to chill. Like let him commit closer to your creep and give you more and more and more time to do something like spend your money and get your upgrades that will incredibly increase the DPS of your army. So that was a bit of an impatient move right there. And now, you know, if he pushes further, you might lose a base because of it. Yeah, I'm Rick James, bitch. Thank you for the sub. So now this base is probably going to die because of it. Like this is when you should be, you know, pouncing on him instead of before. Because what you did before was you gave him an opportunity to do what he just did now for free. Like you can't punish him now because you just threw the army away. And if he just loads up, you can just get out for free. Okay, now the game's kind of reset again. The best way to, if you're going to be the kind of guy who goes Ling Bane Ultra and you do not use Infestors, I like that you already have Banes, and you got to keep in mind that you always need it. You need to always have Banes in your army if you don't have Infestors. Having Banes are very important because, as we all know, there's one thing if you don't have Infestors that Ultralisk will lose to if you go against Bio. And it's basically just a bunch of Marines and Marauders that are on Stim Pack that are just stutter stepping backwards and kiting your army, and they just slowly pick off all your Ultras. It's really bad if you don't have Infestors to lock them down or hold them, you know, slow them down to then close the distance. But if you have Banes and you come in these like flank paths, you can actually wipe out a large clump of the army just because the Banelings touched the army while he's trying to stutter step. Banelings counter stutter step. So having Banes is important, and I like that you're still making them. And I like that you understand that. And you have to flank. With this army, with this kind of an army, you really have to flank. So you should have some units coming in from a different direction. But I don't like that you always kind of separate the Banes. I want you to have some of both on both sides, not just all Banes on one side and all units on the other, all Ling Ultra on the other. Like it should be some Ling Bane, or like half your Banes on both sides mixed with like probably half your army on both sides. And the best way as well to kind of dictate how big part of your army should be when you flank, because some people don't understand this, you should look at the map and look at where you're going to engage. And once you play the map enough times, you'll get more and more familiar with it to really make this decision really fast and not take a while to think about it. But if you were to fight the army, let's say right here, okay? He's standing right here. I would not say it's going to be the best idea. Like it would still probably work just fine because this is still a big choke point. But I would say if you want to make it really ideal for yourself, and if he's going to be right here, I would say 2/3 of your army on this side and 1/3 of your army on this side would be ideal, because this choke point over here, this surface area on this corner, is like twice as large as this one. So if you want to have the maximum amount of surface area, you want to basically have your army engaging as optimally as possible with the most surface area. So the bigger the surface area on one side of the flank, the more army that should be dictated to that side as well. That's like the logic you should use every time you flank. And having Banes on both sides is important, because I gotta say this as well. I didn't say this. This is even more important. Having Banes on both sides is really important, because if a Terran sees Banes on one side and they kite opposite of where your Banes are, you can't punish them as nearly as hard if your Banes are not on both sides. But if the Banes are on both sides, it doesn't matter if he kites one direction or the other. No matter where he runs, he's running into Banes. And you're going to get these like massive connections with your Baneling. So having Banes on both sides is very important. I hope you don't take this fight. That's good. This would be another rushed, non-optimal fight again.
Evolution complete. Your forces are under attack.
Once again, I hope you don't take this fight. You actually punished him a little bit right there for overcommitting a few units. But you should never really fight with this kind of an army head on, just one direction. Because you're not really abusing the power of this build if you do that. The power of this build that you have right here is mobility. AoE and mobility. So you're abusing AoE because you're making the right units. You're making Banelings with ultras. That's important. So you're capitalizing on the AoE aspect of this army, but you're not capitalizing on mobility if you keep engaging from one direction over and over. And you're committing to it. He didn't micro at all there. But even though he didn't micro, it's you're gonna win this fight. But he didn't micro at all. To be honest, you should have lost that fight. Like, this guy did not capitalize on kiting. He just fucking stood there and died.
Your forces are taking damage. You're engaging the opponent.
This guy's definitely falling apart. But, like, we're going to back it up really quick to the fight one more time. So if this guy right now, he knows you're coming. It's not like he just blindsided him and you surprised him. He fucking knows you're coming. He's watching it the whole time. He's actually looking at it as well. He's not like macroing at the moment. So if this guy, all he had to have done, because you're coming from one direction, would have been to spread his army out just a bit. Just spread it out. And because your Banes are coming from one direction, if he spreads his army out, your Banes are forced to then engage through the already spread units, like Marauders spread out or something, and they'll keep dying as they go forward into his, inevitable. Like, you want to go to his Marines, obviously that's what you want, but you're gonna die on the way. If he micros. And then by the time your Bane's thin out, he can then just stutter all your ultras and lings down. But if you had it, let's say you were patient about this, and you had like half your army once again over here now, and half your army was like, or like maybe like a third of your army is over here, a third of your army is down here, and a third of your army is like coming up here, and you hit him with this fucking triangle with like Ling Bane Ultra, Ling Bane Ultra. Then for sure, it doesn't matter if he actually micros well or not. No matter where he goes, he's gonna get smashed by Banes. So the biggest, the most important way to play this build against a good Terran player is to like realize where they are first of all, and set up flanks on that spot. Don't just engage from one direction. That's actually the way you will lose to a good Terran. But yeah, this guy just lost like 30 supply right there to Banes. And now you're just you're keeping the pressure on. Right now, I feel like your best attack location would be his planetary. You are most likely going to kill it, but I feel like you got to be careful. If this guy had a little bit more bio here, like let's say he had like 8 Marauders instead of 2 or something, You got to be careful about the fact that if you let your army like spread out like this, it's kind of scary for you to, you know, the fact like if like he killed this part of your army and saved the planetary, and then now this part of the army engages after this one's dead. Things like that is how you throw your lead as Zerg. The best thing you could have done here, which is you're doing it mostly, but I feel like leaving your army here while you were killing this was a little risky. Killing the planetary because you overpowered it just now was great because you killed all the depots and you killed the orbital itself, which is great. You fucked his economy up right there really hard. And now the best place to attack him would definitely, because you just killed his army, would definitely be now his super exposed planetary, because there's going to be nothing that can defend it, and if this base dies, he has no income really. His main is like mined out and his natural is also basically mined out. So this is like the game right here. So I like that you're focusing on killing this as well instead of attacking the main base. But I feel like leaving the ultras here earlier on and having them just run around and chase the bio while getting shot was a little scary. Yo, Silver, thank you for the sub, man. And what I just said is a little nitpicky. It's you know, obviously this game, it worked out totally fine for you. But there are plenty of times when if you do things like that, like you get a little bit lazy with your units, and you just had a lead, you could throw that lead if you're you know, you do something like that, and now your opponent punishes you for it because they actually kill your army as it starts like thinning out all over the place. So you gotta be like, that's like the one thing a lot of Zergs make a mistake on, but you gotta just be careful to not let that happen. So overall, not bad. Your playstyle overall was fine. I think your Evo chamber timing was scary. It fucked you up pretty hard early on in the game, and you honestly should have lost the game for that. Because you lost a lot of drones for that. But overall, your decision making and as a whole was pretty good. With like how and when you decided to do things. The only thing I thought was a questionable decision was when you decided to move out while you were making drones with your Ling Bane, because if this guy would have cost efficiently killed that, you lose the game again right there. But you were fortunate that he, you know, you blew up a lot of bio and you fucked him up pretty hard with that because he didn't move his units. But yeah, just keep in mind, biggest thing to keep in mind outside of the opener of the build is the two ways to play Ling Bane Ultra are you either drop the Banes pretty much entirely and go into Infestors, so then your army kind of becomes Infestor, Ultralisk, Zergling. You still can pepper in a little bit of Banes here and there, but you're mostly going to be going Ultra Bane, or sorry, Ultra Infestor, because it's really gas expensive. That's one way to do it, and you just then you just wait for the fungals, and once you have good fungals, then you really slam his army with a good engage. And the other way to do it is how you did it, where you just keep making Banes and you don't even make Infestors at all. But the way you honestly have to play if you want to get really, you know, if you want to play higher level ZvT, you have to fucking flank with Ultra Ling Bane. If you don't flank, you will eventually fight Terrans that will crush you because you don't flank. Because you're not abusing the fact that Terrans, like if you don't flank, Terrans can abuse kiting on you all day and micro. But if you do flank, they can't kite you anymore because they kite into more army. So you have to flank with this army. Just keep that in mind. If you start doing it, you will realize how much more powerful it is if you do that. It's very good. And also when you flank, don't do it like Bane's flank and then the rest of your army goes one way. Literally have a little bit of everything going every way. Alright, boys. That was the end of replay analysis. I'm going to put that on YouTube. I like putting those on YouTube. It's good. Good stuff. Good